Let those guys that normally they go all around the stadium and they'll do their practice, then they go all the way around and they'll take pictures and sign stuff with everybody. Last night they just signed footballs and threw them up in the crowd and they did a couple of fun promotions and like Tannehill threw a pass to a guy in the stands and he got $500 and he got to keep the football and John Robinson spoke and Mike Vrabel spoke. It was a neat thing. About 7,000 people there. The weather turned out great, but really the biggest event was the players on the field weren't necessarily signing anything, but there were alums up on the concourse signing stuff. Veterans.
Yeah, like myself.
Like Blaine Bishop.
Yeah, thanks for everybody to come around, hang out with us old Fogey Stogies guys. We were all bringing our canes and everything else. Not just kidding.
So my wife.
It was great. It was awesome. I got to your fam.
My wife sent me a picture, and it was my son sitting with Blaine at the stadium. She said he cut the line and spent a really long time with Blaine.
Oh, no, it was cool. He could do whatever he wanted to do. People were talking anyway.
Okay.
Well, they were talking to Neil O'Donnell.
It was a good crew that you guys had.
Zach Peeler.
Yeah.
B-Hop, Brad Hopkins, and my man Gerald McGrath.
Well, that's a good crew. Weather turned out fine. It almost rained a couple of times, but it didn't rain. And in the past, they've gone over there and they've done the situational practice where they just like run out of the tunnel or show them how to walk out on the field they don't
do like 7-on-7. Nothing, where anybody has a chance of getting hurt besides a muscle.
But last night they did some stuff. So if you went, they did some 7-on-7. They did 11-on-11. They kicked a bunch of field goals. It's just down to one guy. I mean, the other guy, Tucker McCann, wasn't out there. Vrabel didn't really offer any kind of – he got asked about him after practice and didn't offer really anything. We don't know. He'll be well when he's well is essentially what he said. But Sam Ficken kicked a bunch of balls. And
anybody stand out? Or stand out in good way or bad way? You can go either or. Let's start with the bad. Okay. Yeah, it's just 106.
Well, I mostly wrote down good. I mostly wrote down good stuff. Now, I will say this. Tannehill had another interception. Laurel Murchison tipped 2 of his passes. One went to Byard and the other one hit the ground. So, Jim Wyatt, I wrote this. Jim Wyatt says the Titans have picked off 17 passes in camp.
Not all by Tannehill,
Not all by Tannehill, but by everybody. Yeah. 17.
Well, he should have added, I think, his own pace for a record for training camp. I'm sure nobody's kept tabs on what that is.
What the record is for training camp? 17.
But that seems like a lot.
17.
And they showed up in the preseason game. The defense was getting after it. You can say what you want to say, but it's 2s versus 2s. We still dominated them.
Right.
Yeah. End of the day.
So,
tip passes. I don't remember. I think it was only one game I can recall that Tannehill had multiple tip passes.
And he's quarterback sized. He's like Matt Barkley's he's like 6'2"-ish. He's not the big, so is Logan Woodside. Tannehill's taller than those guys. Yeah. And got that high,
But there's a reason why he was 10th pick now.
Yeah. Right.
This guy's got
He's got all the tools.
Yeah. Yep. He's got everything. So that's, it's good for, the D-line, with those guys getting tips. It shows when you get a quick pass, they're aware, they're getting their hands up, which is awesome defensively. It's going to make, the defense is looking better, but I think that's going to make the offense even better than it was.
Yeah, it has to because they're getting pushed around. They're getting bullied some. Now to say that, Cam Batson caught several balls. He was playing with the 2s. Josh Reynolds dropped one to hit him right between the 1 and the 8 early, but he rallied and caught like a 50-yard pass later and laid out for it and caught it.
Oh.
So that's what you want to see. Everybody makes mistakes. Okay, He bounced back from his mistake.
He responded. Mm-hmm.
Sure did. Ferkser caught a bunch. He's still the safety what does
blanket,
Dyson say? Safety blanket. He's the security guy. And
he's a slot guy.
He's a slot guy. Yeah. And he worked the slot all day and looked just like himself. Chester Rogers caught like a 40-yard pass and caught another one. Byard was the one who picked Tannehill after Murch
on the
tipped the ball. So he's right back to where he –
How did the corners look? Did Caleb Farley do anything?
He worked with the 2s.
Okay.
The 2s were Caleb Farley, and I don't know how much this. The whole
Borders.
The whole stadium was full. The 2s were Caleb Farley and Borders, And the two slot guy was Body Calhoun.
Body Calhoun.
Brian Body Cal. Or it looks like Brian.
Where was Jackson?
He was working with the ones.
Oh.
So Chris Jackson he was the one nickel.
Oh, because Molden didn't practice?
He was out there with a helmet and shorts on, but he just kind of stood in the back and watched. Oh. So Body Calhoun worked with the twos. They call him Body. When they were, it's Boddy. He's got one of those hyphenated last names, but in practice, like Body. And it's funny to hear someone yell the word body at a practice, but they yell body at Body. But anyway, he worked with the twos. A guy Chris Jones, who's like a 3 cornerback, wears 23. He's had a couple of nice moments. He had a nice PBU. Breon Borders had a real nice PBU on a play. The long pass, if I'm not mistaken, to Josh Reynolds was on Christian Fulton. But Fulton had a great play against the run, and there was another play where Rashaan Evans had a fantastic play. And there, again, it's just like hard touch.
Oh, you're talking about thud. Mm-hmm.
But he literally, as soon as the running back got the ball, Derrick Henry got just a little bit of work, but not much. It was mostly the 2s and 3s at running back. He was right in the backfield, which is what you want to see from Rashaan Evans. But he probably had the best defensive play that I saw. Got in the backfield, got a tackle for loss. And Fulton had a stop right after him. Ficken went 8 of 9 on field goals in the game. It was interesting. After practice, the thing that a lot of people were talking about was we just hadn't heard much from Josh Reynolds. He said he was having Achilles issues, and he's just now starting to feel like himself. And I think it was Joe Rexrod who asked him on the way out of the room, how's your shoulder? Did you have a shoulder problem? He said, yeah, I had shoulder surgery. So that dude's coming back from a lot, but he caught a long ball that he laid out for. Now, one guy, and I didn't see this because there were different places where people were doing different stuff. I saw A to Z Sports. I think Terry McCormick had video too of another drop on air by Des Fitzpatrick. So they had 3 in a row in practice on Sunday. It's like they ran a drill, he dropped it. So they
on air.
On air. So then they come back from the other way. Like they all line up again, they come back. He dropped another one on air. So they're like, Des, get another rep. He dropped that one too. So then yesterday on air, he dropped another ball, and I saw there's video of that. I saw that. I didn't see it at the time, but I heard somebody mention it, and I went and found the video. So I got to thinking, because I said, I'm going to tell you something when we start the show. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Well, I told you it's in his head now.
It's in his head.
Yeah, no doubt. He's feeling the heat after Coach Vrabel said he needs to do much better in practice. Next day, dropsies. Uh-oh. Looking like trouble.
Okay, you know what round he was picked in, right?
4th?
Yeah. So 4th round, that's like, okay, man.
They moved up to get him, by the way.
Do you know how much they moved up? Do you remember?
No, I remember I thought that was my only deal about the draft, knowing not a lot about Fitzpatrick, just watching him at Louisville. But it seems like they were desperate when they moved up. I don't know how much did they move up. What did they give up? I can't recall.
They gave up a 4th, pick 126. They gave up a 5th, pick 166. They gave up a 7th, pick 232. They gave up 3 picks.
Uh-oh. Somebody in trouble.
So this is a 4th round pick who is struggling, who you spent 3 more picks to get.
Yeah, and I thought it was a desperate move because they should have taken a receiver with the 3rd round pick. You had to assume that a run was about to happen, especially in that 3rd. Everybody wanted to have a jump start on the 3rd, 4th round. So now he has to live up to the billing. A lot of people were saying he's going to have to fight and claw to make the roster, which I'm all cool with if he's not performing. But, man, somebody, you could point to Fitzpatrick, but you also have to point, well, why did we go get him? Then I'm hearing a lot of people saying that he was graded out as a 6th, 7th round guy. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know the grades of the players when they came out. Everybody's happy to get drafted, and if he went 4th round, so be it. I think he has a lot of upside. It's just interesting that he's kind of stalemated at practice, meaning he hasn't gotten better during training camp compared to OTAs and everything else. So that's it's a little worrisome. But guess what? They can buy some time for a year because they got some veteran guys, Rodgers, as well as Marcus Johnson, who's doing really well in camp too. So yeah, but man, that's gonna be a tough pill to swallow if you have to release him and bring him back on practice squad. Somebody else may pick him up, but man, that's a huge investment. And if that happens, that'd be 2 years in a row botched draft picks. And you build your team around your draft.
The NFL.com grade on him, because I called that up. They gave him a 5.5, which by their metrics, chance to make the end of a roster or practice squad.
Yeah, remember I told you I was a 5.9.
Well, they were wrong about you.
Right. Well, but I still went. But see, I'm correlating.
That's where you got.
I went at the end of the draft,
right?
And he was a 5.5, and went in the middle of the draft.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody reached, and then they gave up capital.
A fourth, a fifth, a seventh.
Well, I wish somebody would have did that for me.
Who was your GM, Mike Hollavac? No.
Yeah,
or was it? Yes.
That was his last year, and then it was Floyd Reese.
Okay.
Floyd Reese was his assistant.
Okay.
There. But Hollavac was the guy.
Well, he was mining that gold there in the last round.
Oh man, I love some Mike Hollavac.
No doubt. Well, we'll talk about that and more today. Absolutely. Rest in peace. John Glennon set to join us next. Yeah, hey, Glennon's making some star turns on the station today. We're going to just keep the conversation going with Mr. Broadway Sports himself.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to have to talk to JG about this.
He's doubling down. He's triple booking. John Glennon up next to Talk Titans on Blaine and Mickey.
The Titans are in Tampa against the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah, it's the preseason, but hey, it's Tom Brady. Mike Keith and Coach Mack have the kickoff Saturday night at 6:30.
Throws a man down and goes out of bounds at the 40.
On your home for Titans football and flagship for Titans radio, 104.5 The Zone.
nice in the bank account.
Man, you talking about someone who I've got a chance to meet, and he really models his game somewhat after mine. But man, this guy is a bull. I mean, in the run game, and people want to just say he's a box safety. Well, guess what? That box safety just got 4 years, $70 million. So I think he impacts the game a little bit more than just a box safety. Now, does he impact it a lot more in the box? Absolutely, with his blitzing and everything else. But he can play deep too when he gets after. So yeah, I'm a big fan of his.
No doubt.
So happy for all the safeties to finally get paid, because I've been saying that the safety position has been undervalued, and now you have to have a lot of versatility to your game, and you're impacting the game in not only the run game but also the pass game, and you have to be able to cover. So now, that's why you see the safeties becoming the 5, 10, 11 guy, and the corners becoming the 6'2" guy. And I've said this for the last 3 years, and that the value of safety should continue to go up because they're impacting the game, not only in the run game, but also in the pass game. And it's now a passing league, so you want versatility in your safeties.
Good stuff.
And the Seahawks, by the way, had to live up to they traded for him. So,
yeah, they did.
So did we gave up capital and then we don't keep him? I don't think that would fly with the organization. They started like, well, why did we trade for him?
No, they followed it up with the checkbook, that's for sure. We always follow the checkbook with John Glennon, with heavy amounts of checks for him joining us here on the station.
Yeah, man. You coming for my job, man? What are you doing, man? You all over the place today.
Well, I figured, I figured your salary was very reminiscent of what Adams just got, if I recall correctly. So you can probably still afford to throw a few dollars my way, right?
Yeah, right. Well, where here says a 7, mine said a 1. So I don't think that was close. It might have equaled his signing bonus.
I mean, it's 7 to 1. It's not that much. I mean,
it's real close. I think they made a mistake. It was supposed to be a 7, like 70 instead of a 10.
It's an easy mix-up when you're writing the check.
100%. A 7 to 1 could look real similar on a check, especially with my handwriting. So,
Lord.
John, let's dive into this. So, we go to practice, and you go to practice every day, and you see the Titans defense, and I'm sure at the end of the day you make notes in your notebook, and then you put them out. John Glennon with Broadway Sports, and you're writing about it. Well, then they go down to Atlanta, and it's a lot of twos on defense, and they're playing their twos, and the Titans twos just mauled those guys like hungry bears, and then they go to practice last night. Byard gets another interception, and Rashaan Evans makes a play, and this defense is really putting on a show in camp, and I think we keep waiting. Okay, well, the offense is going to catch up. The offense had a couple of moments last night at the stadium, but the defense has been the story of everything so far.
I would say it's so, and I agree with you that it's kind of a surprisingly so. I think the scouting report for training camp probably was, let's watch this offense, really hum, really crank things up, with all the weapons they have, and gee, can this defense hold on, after what we saw last year? But really has not been the case. I think the defense on most days has had the better of the practices out at training camps. And I think, we can only draw so much from that Atlanta game. As you said, it was most of the time seconds versus seconds or thirds versus thirds. But in general, that was kind of a continuation, at least, of what we had been seeing during training camp practices. A more aggressive mindset, getting after the passer a little bit more, a little tighter coverage when it came to third down situations. Improved work in third down situations. So, yeah, you can only take so much. We still haven't seen first versus first, and you don't really see that much at all during the preseason. But encouraging signs nonetheless from a defense that needed a lot of improvement from last year.
John Glennon, our guest from Broadway Sports, at Glennon Sports on Twitter.
Well, JG, I guess let's start with the preseason game against Atlanta. Who stood out on offense and defense, and who should be worried about cut day is today, the first cut at 3 Central Time?
Yeah, I mean, this is not a surprise standout, but boy, the more you look at what Rashad Weaver did in that game, the more impressed you were. He's kind of up and down a little bit in training camp, but boy, he was everywhere, during his snaps on the field, racked up, a number of good numbers. And then even when he wasn't in specifically on a sack or a tackle, he was disrupting things. He was forcing quarterbacks to move or running backs to change their lane so they would get hit behind the line. I was very impressed in what he brought to the table. And maybe another offensive or maybe another rookie that I was more impressed with than I thought I would be was Dylan Radins on the offensive line. He certainly had his share of struggles in the early going, but in retrospect, this is a guy coming from an FCS school, a guy who played only one game in his regular season last year. That was it because of COVID. So I think some bumps were expected for Dylan Radins, but for the most part, I thought he held out pretty well in that Atlanta game. And this is a guy, too, that's been moving all around that offensive line. I think he's making some strides in the right direction. And maybe just to kind of stick with the rookie theme, but sort of on the other side of things, boy, Des Fitzpatrick having a rough run of things here in training camp and in that game. Certainly was very quiet, no targets. Didn't get into the game, I don't think, until the second half. I'm pretty certain. He's in a tough situation. This is not a good year for kind of a project wide receiver for the Titans because of the depth at position. Now, you're probably going to get the benefit of the doubt because you're a draft pick, a fourth-round draft pick that the team traded up for. But even so, boy, it's not a lock that he's going to make this 53-man roster, I don't think.
What is he, in Fitzpatrick, what is he not doing? What are the coaches saying as far as why he's not, I guess, getting the development as everybody else? Is he just not working hard? He's not offense. What is it?
Yeah, just, you're not seeing a ton of separation out there. You're not seeing consistency from him. Sometimes it doesn't seem he's, completely as locked in as he needs to be. And maybe some of that is just being a rookie. There was a play maybe a week or so again in training camp. He's kind of going for a deep slant, and he runs a pretty good route, but very slow getting the head around, looking for the ball. And really by the time he's fully ready, the ball is on him and past him. And there's no pass reception there. So, and then Mike Vrabel maybe gave a little jab at him during, one of the press sessions when he said Des Fitzpatrick needed to show a lot more in order to get more, reps and targets and so forth. And the next day he goes out and has another bad day. He has 2 drops in a row right in front of the general manager as he's watching practice, and then another pass that maybe is catchable. He can't come down with that either. So it's slow going for Des Fitzpatrick. As I say, generally a draft pick is going to get the benefit of the doubt, but this is kind of a rare Titans year with the depth they had at wide receiver. So Des, it's time to pick it up.
Yeah, and they gave up a lot of capital to move up in the draft to get him. So that'll be interesting to follow and see how that all plays out. Well, let's move forward to the scrimmage yesterday. We went with John Glennon with Glennon Sports and Broadway Sports. And what did you see yesterday that kind of, caught your eye on the offensive defense, as well as special team? Let's not forget about the kicking game.
That's right. On defense, again, we saw some of those, front seven guys getting some pressure on the quarterback, getting their hands up. I think we had it down that Laurel Murchison got a couple of deflected passes, one that led to a Kevin Byard pick. It might have been Simmons on one of those deflections. I'm not certain, but regardless, they're getting their hands up. They're getting in the way. These are the things we weren't seeing very much last year for the Titans. And as I mentioned, Kevin Byard, another interception there, which was impressive. On the other hand, I think Ryan Tannehill bounced back pretty well after that interception. Had a couple of really nice long completions, which we haven't seen a lot of in camp. One was to Josh Reynolds, which is also good because we haven't necessarily seen of Josh Reynolds going kind of full bore. But on that particular play, he was behind Christian Fulton, by a step or so and hauled in a very nice reception. And then another long throw by Ryan Tannehill to Chester Rogers, who kind of snuck behind Kevin Byard and got over to the sideline. And you look at Chester Rogers and say there's another guy in this wide receiver competition that's having a very good camp. And Blaine, you've obviously watched the Titans over the years as much as anyone, and I cannot ever remember kind of the depth and the competition at the wide receiver spot that we're seeing right now.
No doubt about it. We're on with John Glennon with Glennon Sports and Broadway Sports.
So, JG, the Titans obviously having to make some roster moves like everybody today. You got to clear out 5 guys off the roster. I noticed Trayvon Coley was going to IR. I hated to see that. I hate to see it for anybody, but that dude went down to Atlanta and left there a guy that everyone was talking about, and now obviously his journey's going to be delayed some because of that. But he really played great in that game.
Yeah, I agree, and that was another thing that was kind of a continuation of what we've been seeing in training camp. Guy who didn't come in, with a lot of flash to his name, but I thought in terms of again being a disruptor, getting in running lanes and occasionally getting after the quarterback as well. I thought he'd really made a mark for himself, and I would have had him probably down as probably the 5th defensive lineman to make the 53 if he had not been hurt. So that's a blow, for depth. And speaking of injury, I think we got to start looking at safety also for the Titans is kind of becoming a trouble spot. 3 guys didn't practice last night, and Matthias Farley, Brady Breeze, and all of a sudden the other name is eluding me. Yes, I'm sorry, Dane Cruikshank. So those 3 guys were out. Then you had Tedrick Thompson, recently signed. He gets hurt last night. So they have 2 new guys yesterday who they signed, new to the Titans, not new to the league, in Clayton Gathers and Bradley McDougall. But it's kind of getting interesting. You wonder, are these guys only being brought on because of the injuries to the current guys, or are they not satisfied with the depth behind Kevin Byard and Amani Hooker? So that's going to be a interesting situation to play out here as the roster comes together.
Yeah, real quick on that, though, with Brady Breeze's injury, maybe he's out maybe for a long extended time, so that could affect him. And Cruikshank has been injured from the day that he got drafted. Feel like he's never stayed healthy for any amount of time. So that is a red herring, red flag for a lot of GMs. And it might be like, hey, time's up, and then Hooker's kind of passed him up. So it tells you a little bit about, to me, how GMs and administrations kind of think about, all right, how we move forward. And there's so many viable veteran players out there because of those middle-of-the-road players have gotten squeezed out the way the system is set up. And they're out there, and they're taking it. If they shine, they will snatch a roster spot.
Yeah, and as I say, some of these guys that the Titans are bringing in now at safety, these aren't guys that are, played a game or 2 in the league and you're giving guys a chance. These are 2, really 3 in the last few days, very established veterans, guys who've had a number of starts in the league. So certainly some stiff competition. And we know the Titans like Cruikshank's athletic ability. We know he can be a real standout on special teams when he's healthy. But, yeah, as you say, it's just in and out of the lineup regularly. And at some point, when you're a reserve and when your main contribution is special teams, if you can't stay healthy, you're probably not going to stick around too long. And I wonder if Dane Cruikshank is kind of in that situation right now.
John Glennon sticking around with us here on Blaine and Mickey. What do you think happens with Christian Fulton when Caleb Farley finally gets, what did Mike Vrabel say? He's not ready. When he finally gets ready, what are you going to do with Christian Fulton then?
Very interesting question because I think you're left with a little bit of a dilemma there. First of all, we don't know. I think it'll be a little bit of time before Caleb Farley is ready to step into the starting lineup. He's certainly improving regularly physically, but he's another guy. We talked about Dylan Radins not playing much last year. Caleb Farley opted out last year of college due to COVID, so he hadn't played that year. He didn't have an off season here because of the his back surgery. So there's a learning curve in addition to the physical rehab that Caleb Farley is going through with. But yeah, okay, we'll say whatever week it is during the regular season, Caleb Farley's ready to go. Well, do you want to get your 3 best corners on the field? If that's the case, Farley, and Jack Rabbit Jenkins are on the outside, and then do you push Christian Fulton back into the slot? That's not his natural position. He certainly started learning it and playing it last year, but that was not his background. So do you want to stick to that plan and use him in the slot? Or you've got a couple of guys who really have some background, certainly in their college game, Elijah Molden and Chris Jackson playing the slot. But at that point, then all of a sudden Christian Fulton becomes a fourth cornerback, and this is a second-round pick who you expect a lot from. So it's a little bit of a dilemma to have right there. Maybe this is a situation where in the long run, the Titans don't know how long they'll have Jack Rabbit Jenkins. So certainly at some point you're going to have Fulton and Farley probably on the outside, as you're starting two corners. But in the short term, yeah, it's a little bit of a dilemma, as I say. Do you want to force Fulton into that slot position because you want the three most talented cornerbacks on the field, or do you take a ready-made slot guy, and team him with your two best corners? Interesting situation for the Titans.
Yeah, for sure. John Glennon, our guest here on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, JG, I was wondering if I watched the Colts as well as the Jaguars, and I came away from those games feeling like not so good. The Colts quarterbacks look solid. Trevor Lawrence looks like he's a work in progress. He just holding on to the ball too long. But I was still impressed with both teams, pleasantly surprised. I don't know. What were your thoughts if you watched it?
Yeah, I saw, clips. I saw, highlights from time to time. I think Eason is going to be solid, but I don't necessarily think he's going to be anything special. Going to be hard for me to see him, develop that quickly. But from the sound of things, it doesn't sound like Carson Wentz is going to be out for that long either. So the Colts maybe they end up being in pretty good shape there. I just think, if you look at all these rosters and in particular the quarterback situation, I think this is the Titans' division to lose. I think they're certainly set up to defend their title from last year. One thing that's a little concerning to me is as far as the Titans go. We talked about this earlier. We expected coming into training camp this Titans offense was going to be humming on all cylinders, all kinds of options going for them. And it may indeed look that way at some point here in training camp and going into the regular season, but it does not look like that right now. Julio Jones hasn't practiced in 2 weeks. Josh Reynolds isn't 100%. And offensive line guys, key offensive line guys, starters, have been kind of in and out of the lineup too. Ben Jones and Nate Davis and Kendall Lamb. So, I think there are some questions that are going to be asked about the offense here if they don't start getting a little bit more healthy going towards the opener. And Julio Jones, you say, okay, yeah, this is a 10-year vet, a 7-time Pro Bowler. What is he going to get out of training camp? But let's remember, this is a new team for the first time in 11 years, a new quarterback for the first time, a new offensive system, et cetera, et cetera. So you do need him out there, I think, for some training camp. You do need to get some chemistry and some timing down with Ryan Tannehill. So let's keep an eye on how that comes.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, with John Glennon with Glennon Sports and Broadway Sports. I guess lastly for me, what are your expectations going into this Tampa Bay preseason game? Not necessarily the scrimmages. Sure, everybody's going to be scrimmaging, but do you think the starters will be playing a lot in this game, or will they play at all and they'll just wait till the third preseason game?
If I had to guess, I still think they go the third week because, we've got that 2-week break in between the final preseason game and the first regular season game. So, you've got some time to heal up and to rest. And I would think you'd probably want to try and do most of your, first team players in that final game. But it is a little different setup. Obviously, we're used to seeing, the 4 preseason games, and we'll see how 3 changes it this year. But, my guess is we still don't see a ton of the first teamers this week. We'll see maybe a little bit more than we did the first week. But honestly, I'm really interested in what we see in those practices, because we will see, first teamers going at one another on both sides of the ball. I think especially of interest for Titans is, how do these young corners stack up against some of the best receivers in the league? Tom Brady, a team that won the Super Bowl. We've got some talent on the at the cornerback position for the Titans, but very young, outside of Jack Rabbit Jenkins, very young group of guys. So, I'm really interested to see how they fare against the cream of the crop.
Oh, JG, are you going down to Tampa Bay to watch the practices, the scrimmage?
I fear that I am not, so I didn't mean to make it sound like that if I was. But so I'll save my money up and see if we can't make another trip here soon.
Cool. Well, with John Glennon Sports and Broadway Sports.
Yeah, JG, we would have sent some sunscreen with you and some prayers, because that sun's pretty hot down there in Florida, man. Thank you for the time today, bro.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. No problem.
My fellow Irishmen, club long sleeves out there and hats on and everything
Oh,
else.
is that
Yeah, both of us are clear. Yes, John Glennon and me. When we come back, today is a cut day in the NFL. Maybe the most famous cut that will happen this offseason happened today. We'll tell you. Blaine and Mickey next.
Ryan Tannehill, Julio Jones, and Derrick Henry. They live here. I mean, not really here in the building, but you know what we mean. On the Titans station.
104.5 The Zone.
All right, there's a thing called fear. He played college at Missouri.
Oh.
He was 38 starts out of 41 games, so a real good player at Missouri.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
So you never know. He spent time on practice squads last year. He actually came out last year and was undrafted. So maybe he's a big guy. He's 6'5", 315, so he's the right size. Maybe he gets another opportunity. You know, his agent will tell him keep working out and stay by the phone. So maybe he gets another opportunity. But
he could get cut early now and then be brought back to the practice squad. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
Even if you got cut on the first cut.
Like
this now, it's still 16 on the practice squad, 16 players.
They haven't said yet.
Oh.
Lucas, have they I don't think they've clarified that yet.
Lucas, quit picking your nose.
I know. Yesterday we were just in here talking to him. It's like, oh, what was that, guys?
Nah.
But I don't think they have said yet, how they haven't told the NFL GMs yet how many people are going to be on their practice squad, because you're trying to plan all that stuff.
Oh, I think it's 16.
Is it a done deal? 16?
It better be. We need it to be.
You're asking people to play 17 games. If it's not, they need 16 people on the practice squad. Just stop that.
Yeah.
I mean, let them have 6. They got money to pay everybody. They're fine. Their finances aren't going to go sour for 6 more guys on the practice squad as opposed to 10.
Yeah, the practice squad, man. Going into training camp, that was actually my goal. Halfway through training camp, about like right now, we're going to preseason game 2. I said, I got a chance to be the backup. Let me seize the moment. And boy, you talking about how your confidence to kind of can seize the moment and continue to grow and feel like you belong and that you are an NFL player. That happened around about this time. Right when we're about to scrimmage, I think we scrimmaged it was the Cowboys. Ooh, yeah, the Cowboys or the Chargers, one of the two. We scrimmaged both of them that year.
Cowboys was your team, right?
Yeah, growing up because I played Little League for the Cowboys.
I know.
And then I hated them when I was an Oiler.
Well, sure you did.
Mm-hmm. And the Titan, I hated them too then. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Here's who got cut. Tim Tebow. It didn't last. He was one of the first 5 guys that got cut off the Jaguars. I saw people saying they played 16 plays in game number 1. And it's funny because he went out there Blaine in shorts and he looked like Superman. And then they had him out there trying to play tight end in a game. And there's a handful of videos that exist that people have. And that poor guy was bouncing off people like a rubber pellet. Just boing.
Man, he was that bad they cut him immediately. That would have brought him in. He was a good distraction where nobody was talking about Trevor Lawrence.
Well, and we had Eric Eager on yesterday, and he was like, hey, if nothing else, think about it. All you're talking about is Tim Tebow. You're not even mentioning Trevor Lawrence. He's had it easy. Yeah. Well, now everybody's going to start looking at Trevor Lawrence game film like you did. We're like, maybe he held the ball a little too long.
Yeah, he was. He was holding the ball. Hey, but he's got to be out there. I'm going to tell you one thing. I know I get nervous. The Jaguars and the Colts didn't look too bad to me. I know I just asked JG about Eason. He went – here's the mindset of Frank Reich. Here's what the first thing I saw. They threw the ball a lot. Like, you guys are going to be comfortable with this offense. If I got to roll with you in the regular season, I'm going to get y'all comfortable right now. I mean, he was throwing timing throws, boom, boom, and Eason has a big arm. And he was getting rid of that ball. I was impressed considering, he was, a 4th-round pick 2 years ago.
Yep.
And Ellinger, and he looked pretty good too. Trevor Lawrence is just he was holding on to the ball too long. He's gonna get hurt with that offensive line. You better get rid of that thing. But I think that part will happen. You start going watch film. Say now I have to anticipate throws and throw them sooner before they on the outbreak, or whatever the timing is. So yeah, I was actually felt like I'm looking more at the Colts. I love the Jaguar skill positions, even a DB to the receivers, the runner. They have some good skill players. The Colts have some. The Colts look scary to me. I'm serious now. They didn't have Wentz or Nelson on offense, and the defense didn't play some of their starters, and they looked pretty good.
I'm just trying not to think about them.
No, I'm saying this because everybody just thinks they know the Titans are going to win the AFC South because Carson Wentz is out and Quentin Nelson. That's not the case. I think they understand what they have to do to beat the Titans, and the Titans know what they have to do to beat them. They play each other twice a year, every year under Frank Reich and Vrabel. So I think they're going to try to run the football. If not, they're going to do the quick passing game. And some of those guys, once those quarterbacks get some confidence, then I saw the next couple of days, Eason has looked even better now because his confidence is growing. My man from Chirp Chirp, Beamer, he was like, yeah, he looks way better now. he says he exudes confidence, which is really interesting because obviously they didn't see that before. Yeah. So I was people can downplay. I want to. I thought both of them looked pretty good. Granted, it wasn't a regular season game and all those things, but they looked comfortable. And if you got a running game in that offensive line they have and that real good defense.
Oh, man, Titans fans are like, don't tell me that, Uncle Blaine. I just want to put on this warm blanket of feeling that they're going to run away with the division this year. It's a warm, soft blanket. They want to keep it on.
We better make sure, we get all our top players out there that's injured or not injured. I have no idea.
It's a bunch of
dudes
like
Julio,
Autry.
Reynolds, Autry. I mean, yeah, we got to make sure
Ben
that
Jones.
these guys are ready to rock and roll.
Yep.
We need our best.
No doubt. We're going to give you our best in the second hour of the show. We tried it in the first. We'll try it again in the second. Rick Stroud, longtime Bucs reporter, set to join us in a little over 20 minutes. You will want to stick around for that. Headlines next. By the way, Jeff says on Twitter he saw the Titans are at 84 on their roster. So he updated for us. So apparently they're good to go. They could even add a guy per Jeff on Twitter. So
Hope Jeff's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll be right back.
3, the Pro Way, taking you inside the transition from retired athlete to business. Every Monday morning at 8 with Tennessee football legends Joey Kent and Kevin Dyson. 3, the Pro Way. Download now at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Going to talk a little Buccaneers here coming up in just a few minutes with Rick Stroud. Fellow Arkansas State grad, by the way, Rick Stroud. There's two of us in the media. He's the other one.
It's only two you guys?
Yeah, we have a meeting every year and pay dues. It's just two of us. We could Zoom, get it done.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ball State's known for media. Kelly Rudd just found out the other day she's a Ball State grad.
Our guy George Bremer covers the Colts.
No doubt.
Yeah, man.
Chirp, chirp to George Bremer.
That's not even counting, me.
Well, I mean, we got to count you.
I don't think I'm on the list. I don't think they count me.
I think they got to count you. I don't think they count me at Arkansas State. Now, I don't know. Maybe my checks aren't big enough. I don't know.
It's because you left Arkansas and they X'd you off the list.
I think they did, boy. It's like the Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but you're never supposed to leave.
They don't have classrooms named after you guys at both those schools?
They should have something named after Blaine. I mean, he only played 10 years in the NFL, but the only thing named after me is something that I paid for to put my name on it.
What is it?
I have a seat in the meeting room in the new football complex.
Oh, well,
the Mickey Ryan seat.
Yeah, I paid for those before. Then you wonder whose else's name going to be there next year.
Right.
Then they keep adding the plates and everybody else. I'm like, well, crap.
It's the Blaine Bishop seat and another guy and another guy.
Maybe if I donate a little bit more money, they probably would then name a building after me. I think they're waiting patiently.
Just circling quietly.
I'm in the
like a
Hall of Fame there,
buzzard.
so I am in that there.
That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
cool.
you're in the Senior Bowl Hall of Fame. I know because I've seen your interactions with the Senior Bowl. I remember you going down and getting into that, and you're in the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame because I was there that night. I got a picture of you standing behind me. You got your suit on and your plaque, and
and I got a picture with your son yesterday.
You got a picture of my son. So now you have one picture of both of us, both generations.
Yeah.
In the Ball State Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That's got to be a pretty cool thing to be in any Hall of Fame because most of us don't ever get to experience that, and you're in a bunch of them. That's a cool thing.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. You know what's so funny? My goal at any time was never to be in any Hall of Fame. And it's a great honor, and I'm super psyched about it. It's just interesting. Sometimes you hear some guys say, "Oh, my goal was to get in the Hall of Fame," and I'm going, "Man, I didn't think that far ahead."
Right.
All I could do was try to always be the best version of me. And if that equated to getting in the Hall of Fame, that'd be awesome. But no, I was always just, living in the moment, trying to be the best player I can be. Just keep going and keep grinding and see what happens. And very, very fortunate to be in those Hall of Fame. So I'm pretty excited about those. That was something that I didn't expect. No different than I didn't expect to be the commencement speaker at Ball State. I mean, those are things you don't have on the checklist to say those are the things I want to do. And then when you get asked to do certain things, you go, "Oh man, there's no way I could say no."
That was pretty recent, right? The commencement thing.
That was pretty cool. Mm-hmm.
You got to do that. That's pressure.
Yeah, that was a little bit. No, actually, just writing the speech was more so the pressure. Speaking in front of people, I don't know. I've been comfortable with that for a long time. I've been speaking engagements since I met Brian Gumble when I was 12, and he was a keynote speaker at the Steak and Burger dinner when I was Boys Club Youth of the Year. So it's been going on for a long time, let alone being captain of every level I've ever been at. But, even speaking at the AFC championship when we got back here. Yeah, because I told everybody we brought a can of whoop ass.
I remember that.
Oh, is that legal? I can say that on air? Oh, if not, then I'll see you guys later.
Hey, man. That night, and we're going off script here for a second like we do. That night
was fun, man. That was
because
fun.
I had moved here. I was a television anchor in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and I'd quit TV.
And 99, right?
And I just came here, and so I got to go to a couple games that year. And I was just enjoying going to the games. And I remember a buddy called me. There's no cell phones or anything yet. And the guy was like, "We have to go to the stadium because the team is going to come to the stadium."
And we had no idea that that's what was going on until we get to the airport.
Yep.
And they said, "Hey, we got to go to the stadium."
After the win in Jacksonville.
And at that time, we walked through the airport.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, you get on the bus, after you get off the plane.
I would imagine people were going crazy in the airport.
Oh, it was stacked. They had to make an area where we could walk. So all the players are following, the little trail there, if you want to give it that, in the airport. So that was fascinating just to see all the fans. And then when we get to the stadium, the lower bowl was pretty much packed.
It was packed.
It was awesome.
And it was cold that night. And I'll never forget there were dudes with no shirts on who had put like "Go Titans" G, and then the next guy O, and then
did they?
and the guys with no shirts. And I saw them, and nobody had. Again, there were no phones, but I thought that'd be fun to have a picture of those guys. And I have the print of the Tennessean the next day, where it had like pictures from the game. There's a picture of Derek Mason on the kick return, and it had a picture of those guys with no shirts on from that night. But it was all new to all of us. The stadium was new. The team was just called the Titans in '99. So everything that happened had never happened before. So we'd never had a team here that made the playoffs. Yeah. So you guys go down to Jacksonville, you beat them. People just start calling. Third time.
Crazy.
And they were good. Like, they still tell the tale in Jacksonville of the Titans took our Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So they hate Titans like the Titans hate the Ravens.
Yeah.
And we know because some of their people have told us that. But you'd never done anything like that before. So I was like, can we even get in the stadium? Will it be open? The guy's like, I heard it's going to be open. So we just drive to the stadium, and the lights are on. And on the Titantron is the Rams game. And we're thinking, because Ricky Prohl caught like a late pass.
It was against Tampa Bay, wasn't it?
Yeah, it beat Tampa Bay when they had
corner.
They had the little guy from Tampa who was quarterback, Sean
Smith, or I want to say Sean's, but King.
Sean King, who only played a few years, but he was Tampa's quarterback.
I think he's a coach in Florida, one of the Florida schools, South Florida, maybe.
So they get all the way. They get to the championship game because the Titans are about to play the Bucs. So here we go. We'll talk to Rick Stroud in a minute. Rams sneak out that win. We all watch it. And then all of a sudden, on the Titantron, there's a camera of the caravan coming into the stadium. And people just started going absolutely crazy, cheering for a shot of the buses pulling into the stadium. And the buses pulled like down the ramp and like right there. And you guys start getting out, and they played the woo! And they did it, just like the game.
I used to get pumped up when I hear that. Yee-hoo! Yeah, I used to get jacked.
And the Duke, that's safety.
One of the first things that I think of when that happened is I'm standing on the podium there with the living legend, Bruce Matthews. And I was so excited for him. I mean, almost really bringing tears to my eyes because I'd look at his face. I said, man, we finally made it here. He says, it's been a long road for me. I would go, wow.
Yeah.
The legend. This is his first time to ever play in the Super Bowl. This guy almost plays 20 years in the league, and this is his first trip to the Super Bowl. So I was super jacked and pumped. I think after he spoke that I spoke. So I was giddy at the same time, but so pumped up for him. And realizing that looking at him, this may be our only shot. Yep. We better seize the moment. And unfortunately, we didn't.
Well, it was
the end of the day.
It was a great run, and
hopefully this year's team can make that kind of run.
Yep.
And galvanize the city like that again. Because, man, it was on a whole nother level. And I'm talking about the fan base and having this place rocking and that stadium rocking. So let's see if we can make that happen. Come on, Julio. Julio. Where are you, Julio?
He did walk out yesterday at the end of that practice. He just walked out in a pair of shorts and had his jersey
People
on.
went crazy, didn't they?
People went absolutely crazy. You heard this like, it got louder and louder. I thought, what's wrong with people? And it was just a picture of Julio walking out on the Jumbotron.
They cannot wait. And I can't wait.
I can't wait. Can't wait to hear from Rick Stroud. We'll do that next. What's going on in Tampa? Let's go straight to the source. Our buddy Rick Stroud from the Tampa Tribune, I believe it is, joins us next here on Blaine and Mickey.
The Titans play 4 preseason quarters against Tom Brady's Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And your flagship for Titans radio has the game.
Comeback foiled.
Saturday night at 6:30 on your home for Titans football. 104.5 The Zone.
I'm going to get it right. I promise you, man. I won't shortchange a fellow Arkansas State alum and journalist on the radio here in Nashville.
Great to talk to you. Go Wolves, man. It's been a long time. Or Wolves up, I should say. How's it going?
It's going great. Now, Blaine went to Ball State, and he was naming all the Ball State alums who are, famous media people like himself. Now, he got to be –
well, I'll start with David Letterman.
Okay.
Is that considered media?
Yeah, he's with the media. So I'm like, well, other than Rick Stroud and me, I don't know how long the list is from Arkansas State.
It's long.
Rick is big time.
It's long. It's so many you can't name them all. So I understand.
And I'll tell you this too, Blaine. He's like you. He was an athlete, and now he's a baseball player.
Oh,
so you and Rick, I feel like I may as well just like hang up myself and let you guys talk sports and talk about the game coming up.
No. Those baseball guys are really smart and strategic. About they had the patience to wait for the right pitch. Me, not so much.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's a different animal covering it, covering football, and I have such an appreciation for what you guys do, man. It takes a different cat to play football. Let me just say that straight up. But it's been fun. I've done it for a long time and covered Blaine in many games from afar and enjoyed his work. And of course, the Titans had it going back in the day, and they do again. So this should be a couple of good days coming on down here in Tampa, I think.
All right, before I hand this to Blaine, I have to ask you about this, Rick. Since you mentioned covering Blaine and covering those teams, I know you covered the Bucs for years now and done a fantastic job. I'm a big uniform guy. The idea that we might see the creamsicle Bucs and the Houston Oilers uniforms back on the field, that makes my eyes water. I'm so happy about it.
He loves unis.
I wish they'd go. I mean, apparently this helmet rule thing is kind of, and I don't get it, right? Like, I understand the concussion protocols and the equipment and all of that, but, in college football, they've got about 27 helmets per team, and I just don't see where there's not enough money to have more than one helmet in an NFL locker room. So, but we're looking forward to one day getting the creamsicles back. They were not very popular when they wore them, and that's primarily because they stunk at that time. But everybody seems to like them. We'd like to see them come back, and hopefully maybe before Brady quits at age 55, they'll get a chance to wear the orange too.
Rick Stroud joins us at NFL Stroud. He covers the Bucs for the Tampa Bay Times in Tampa.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks for coming on, Rick. I have to ask about a local kid that you guys drafted a couple years ago. That's Keyshawn Vaughn. How has he looked in now his second camp? Moving forward, is he, probably maybe getting a little bit more playing time, or is he still kind of going to be that third option there for you at running back?
Well, he's going to get a lot more playing time, especially in this preseason, and he was one of the standouts in their first game. It wasn't a very good game offensively. I think what they liked about it is that he ran the ball hard, but primarily, this Blaine, you got to make the team on special teams, and he did not play that at Vanderbilt. They had no training camp a year ago. He got off to a slow start last season, but he was playing some gunner, and they clocked him at 22 miles an hour on one coverage, which is really fast even for him. And, he's really the only running back under contract after this year. You think Ronald Jones is going to be a free agent. Leonard Fournette is back for a year. So I think that they think Keyshawn's one of the more improved players. You got a little ways to go. But he's doing a nice job, and he'll be in that running back room, which is a pretty good one now with Giovanni Bernard coming in.
Oh man, these guys have a nice list of running backs. Well, let's talk about the quarterback, and not Tom Brady. We know what the GOAT is, right? Who's behind him and how they're progressing? We got Trask, and I think is Blaine Gabbert there. Who's the other quarterbacks?
Well, Ryan Griffin has been here for like 8 years. He's had an unbelievable career for a guy that's only attempted 4 more passes than you and me. And you may have thrown one, Blaine. I haven't, but he's been a guy he's been a guy that's been on the practice squad and the regular roster as a number 3. But behind Brady is Gabbert, and I think that's pretty solid. They drafted Kyle Trask out of Florida with I think the final pick of the second round, and he's going to do what he's always done in his career. He didn't start in high school. He's behind Derek King. When he got a chance to play at Florida after Felipe Franks moved on or got injured, he lit it up, and that's sort of what he's going to have here. In the perfect world, he has a redshirt season or 2. and gets to know the offense. He's a quick study. He's a guy that can win from the pocket, which is what Brady does. So he has a perfect seat to see how the best in the world does it. And I think that he's handling a lot of things really well. And listen, if something happens to Tom Brady, it's not going to be a good thing, whoever has to play. But that's sort of the pecking order right now. And maybe maybe Griffin gets on the practice squad with the expanded rosters and whatnot. But you're not going to waive Kyle Trask because he would get claimed. And so he's on this football team. So I think those are your top three.
Well, Rick Stroud of Tampa Bay Times and at TampaBay.com.
Yeah, I had literally written this down to ask you about Ryan Griffin. I saw he struggled in the first preseason game. This is a real thing. He has been in the league since 2013. He has thrown 4 passes. And Rick, people talk about Chase Daniel all the time, like, oh, that guy. He hadn't thrown any passes until 2019. That's when he threw his 4 passes, and people were calling him Moonlight Graham and everything else just because of this guy's literally been taking NFL paychecks for a decade and had not thrown a pass until 2019. That's the book you need to write, is about this dude.
Well, and I like him a lot. I mean, and you guys know this. They don't just hand these jobs out, right? You've actually got to be able to play a little bit. I mean, you can't fake it. You've got to go out there and practice and do some things. Where's number 4? We call him RG4. He's not quite RG3, but his claim to fame, as it turns out, and it will be forever on T-shirts and memes around the world, is he's the guy that held up Tom Brady after the boat parade when he had too much of, avocado tequila. So you can see Ryan Griffin in that picture being the backup quarterback, literally holding up the starting quarterback in that boat parade. So, it is an amazing career when you think about it. He was Moonlight Graham until he got in the game. And he's made over $3.5 million. I mean, it's good work if he can get it. But again, I'm sure he'd rather play. And by the same token, it's not a bad job.
Real quick, since you said avocado tequila on Tom Brady, I have to ask: has he talked about the TB12, or has anybody asked him questions about his brain being pliable? Because we got that.
Well, I mean,
before, and I was like, what?
Blaine, I've never seen anything like this guy, and I don't know what he does, but we should all do it. And he did have his fun. I think he cuts it loose about 5 times a year, maybe. But it's real, and I've spent some time with Alex Guerrero, talked to him a lot about the TB12, which they've opened a facility here that a lot of the players use for recovery, in addition to what they get with the training staff. They go over there, after practice and get the plyometrics and, anything else that they need to do to rehab from some injuries. And they all swear by it. And why wouldn't you do what Tom Brady does? I mean, there's not many like him that will make that sacrifice nutritionally and everything else that he does, with his body. But when you watch the guy at 44, he has no appreciable deterioration in his arm strength. He can still absolutely spin it. Says he feels better now than he has in 14 years. He's not wearing a knee sleeve. He got, surgery on what was a torn MCL that nobody knew he played with, or very few people knew he played with last season. So it's really something to see, and I think it's just helped the entire team, especially these young guys, look up to him and realize what it takes to be a pro.
Rick Stroud, our guest. So I wrote this down to ask you, and if you say I don't know, then that's okay too. But you're on his beat now. You obviously are around him. You'd be around the other people who are around him on a daily basis. Do you have an idea or a theory, if he hadn't gone to Tampa Bay, where would he have gone?
Well, I mean, there were several teams that he was talking to. The Chargers were certainly one of them. I don't know how serious he was necessarily about going there. You have to surmise that, his relationship with Mike Vrabel was one that he would have tapped into at some level. I don't know, again, what the interest was with Ryan Tannehill there. We'd have to ask John Robinson. I think he looked at this situation. I think he wanted to stay on the East Coast. He knew the roster pretty well. I think we'd be hard-pressed not to believe that San Francisco wasn't a place that he would have liked to have gone, just from the standpoint that that's his home, and that's the team he grew up rooting for. Joe Montana, Steve Young were the guys he would watch, back in the day. And I think, had they had a different situation, they'd just given Jimmy Garoppolo a ton of money. I've talked to John Lynch about this. They were more or less contacted, I think, by Brady's people. They didn't pursue him necessarily, but they had to think about it. And now we know, of course, where that situation is with Garoppolo, and they drafted Trey Lance. So you wonder if maybe they should have pulled the trigger on that. But I don't know who he was talking about in the barbershop. If it was Ryan Tannehill, I don't know. But there were a number of teams, and it may not have been any of them. My theory is that perhaps he wants every team that talked to him to think that they were the ones that missed the boat. And so that's just how Brady is. But it's interesting to try to speculate about where he would have gone. But all I know is he came to Tampa Bay, and look, since he's arrived here, the hockey team won 2 Stanley Cup Finals. Yeah. The baseball team got in the World Series, and they won a Super Bowl. So there's something to it.
Rick Stroud joins us from the City of Champions, Tampa, Florida. He's at NFL Stroud on Twitter, writes for the Tampa Bay Times.
Well, Rick, how is the health of the team? Do they have any serious injury to some, let's say, veteran starting guys? So where's the health?
They're pretty good. I mean, I think, the one thing about Bruce Arians, you'd love playing with him later in your career, playing for him, because he does as good a job of taking care of older guys, and he's got a bunch of them, right? Like a lot of them came back, 22 starters from Ndamukong Suh. We know that Jason Pierre-Paul, Levante David, those guys are getting up in age, and it's rare to see, veteran players become less injured and more productive as their career goes on. But those guys know how to prepare, and he gives them their legs and makes sure that they're ready for the 3 hours on Saturday or Sunday or whenever they're playing. They don't have any major injuries to the frontline guys. They've got some depth issues on the offensive line. They've had a couple centers, including the guy they drafted from Notre Dame, Robert Haynes. He's been out for a little while. So, you're a little nervous. They don't plan to play any of their starters really in this game on Saturday because they're going to beat each other up here in the next 2 days. And Bruce thinks that's going to be enough physicality. You get to protect your quarterback and do some things, that way with the non-contact on that position. So, really it's just a matter of, trying to get some of the depth healed up on the offensive line. And, O.J. Howard's coming back from a torn Achilles. He's kind of been on a pitch count a little bit. They've given him some days off to bring that injury back, but he looks good. So right now I think they're about as healthy as they could be. If they could keep it this way until that game against Dallas September 9th, they'd be pretty happy about that.
What's the biggest competition, Rick, I guess, in camp or battle you're looking for that's on offense and defense, or if there's any?
Well, again, when you got your 22 guys coming back,
right.
It's not that they're guaranteed jobs, but they're pretty close to it. So, really, on this team, it's unique. I don't think this has happened since 1977 with the Raiders when you had this many starters back. So it's all about, who's going to be that sixth receiver. They got a kid named Jalen Darden that they got, from North Texas, I believe. And he's an electric kick returner, another speed guy. They're very deep at wide receiver, as you guys all know. Having an Antonio Brown back this time for maybe 17 games of the regular season instead of 8 is something that's intriguing. He looks great. Even at his age, he keeps himself in tremendous shape. So there's a lot of competition, across the board. I think the edge rushers, you had a guy like Joe Tryon. He's going to be in the mix in a rotation with Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul. So really you're talking about, another inside linebacker, which may be KJ Britt from Auburn. Just sort of depth spots as much as anything. And then just fortifying your offensive line, finding that swing tackle, another guy that can maybe play inside and outside if he needs to. So that's kind of where they're at in terms of evaluating. And then, in the secondary, you need some guys there as well, especially at the safety position right now, because they do have an injury or two with Jordan Whitehead. at safety. So that's really about it, guys. I mean, I'm not kidding you now. This team is reloading. They are in a win now mode, win again mode, and that's what their focus is.
Man, it sounds like a repeat is not something that they are taking lightly. They firmly believe it with the players they have. I guess, in summary, give us what happened versus the Bengals in their first preseason game. And I know a lot of the starters didn't play, but just in summary, how did they look offensively and defensively?
Well, it was a sloppy game. They didn't look good. The starters played about 6 plays. Brady got sacked on the 6th play, and then his night was over, right, wisely so. I question whether he should play at all because of what he means to the team. And yet Bruce Arians said he'll probably play a lot of the starters in the final preseason game in Houston, a little bit in that one, if not a lot. So we'll see how that goes. But primarily it was, a lot of sloppy play, turnovers. They created 4 turnovers. They threw a couple of interceptions, again with Ryan Griffin, and they dropped some balls. I think Trask should have had a better night. He was 4-15, but he had 255, 60-yard throws that were on the money that receivers, one of which is now not with the team, dropped. So it looked bad. And the tackling, especially this time of year, Blaine, you know this, that guys aren't taking people to the ground. You go out in preseason and they're not wrapping up. They don't do a very good job in the tackling department. It's probably one of the worst tackling games they've seen. So it's no excuse. You're not playing your frontline guys, but you're all NFL players at this point. And so they would hope for a much better practice these next 2 days, and then hopefully play better on Saturday night.
The Stroud Tampa Bay Times.
Rick, it's interesting. Rob Gronkowski, I wondered, okay, he took a year off. How good does he feel? Well, he came back, and he had some Gronk moments, and maybe not some not so Gronk moments, but in the Super Bowl, makes a couple of real big plays, wins the Super Bowl, and I think a lot of people thought he'll just ride off into the sunset. Not only did he not do that, that dude's at training camp again and seems to be just rejuvenated.
Yeah, and the reason is that Tom Brady asked him to, and it's really as simple as that. Tom's very influential. He got him to come out of retirement. True story about last year. He was in no shape to play, and his body was healed up. That was the good news. He took a year off, and all those bad bumps and bruises and breaks, started to go away, and so that's the good thing. The bad thing is there was no training camp or off-season program, so they did these virtual workouts where they would send you, here's what your workout is. Send us a tape that shows us you're doing it. And so Rob got the idea that, he had to run one day. So he just changed his shirt about 5 times and sent in 5 different posts of him running. It was really just one jog that he took and just kept changing shirts. So he cut some corners, and then he got into training camp. That heat was too much for him. So he's in much better shape this year. There's no question about it after playing, a full season of football, and he looks great. The guy, I know he has this kind of goofy reputation, and he's an absolute fun guy and a joy to be around. What you see is who he is all the time, but he's a serious worker, loves the game, can block, I saw him in one game, 55 snaps, he blocked 44 times, or 54 times out of 55 snaps. If that sounds familiar at all to you, Blaine, I don't know. But he did it, and he didn't complain about it. And I think when you have people that are willing to do whatever it takes to win with those kind of Hall of Fame credentials, it's pretty easy for the rest of the guys to fall in line.
All right, I just have one last question on the way out. And you alluded to this earlier. They brought everybody back. In the salary cap era, I know Tom Brady's persuasive. I know people want to play with him. How in the world did they bring everybody back?
Well, I think you got to credit Mike Greenberg. I mean, these guys aren't playing for free. He's their cap guy, the director of, I think, Vice President of Football Administration. They push some money back. There's no question that they'll be, paying some of the rent in future years. It's not a ton, but there is some. I just think, when the window is this small, who knows? I mean, maybe Brady will play longer, or he has, than we think he would. But guys had so much fun last year, and winning is fun, right? I mean, it's a chicken and the egg thing, but culture is winning. And when that guy walked in the building, he's all about winning, and the culture changed pretty quickly. A lot of these guys are at the end of their career. They want to see how many rings they can win. And that's some of them. That's the only reason they're playing, and I think they enjoyed each other. It was really an unselfish bunch. It's rare to get a guy like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin to say, hey, I don't care how many balls I catch. Bring in all the players you want to. We just want to win. And, they had to do it during COVID when there wasn't a lot of fans. They got to play at home for the Super Bowl, but there's only 25,000. I think these guys want to do something that's rare, which is win back-to-back and do it with everybody in the stands, because much like Tennessee, when the Bucs are winning and they fill that stadium, it's rocking. So that, to me, as much as anything, they want to be together again and see if they can't make this happen under hopefully more normal conditions than what we had a year ago.
Rick, you're great at writing. You're great on the radio, man. That Arkansas State education is just amazing. Just to see how talented they made you at everything, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, well, it is the Harvard of the South, as you know, and I'm just happy to be on with enough former Red Wolf, and good luck to you guys up there in Nashville. We'll see how the Titans do here these next couple of days. It should be fun.
That sounds great. Thank you, man. Always great to catch up with you.
All right.
Appreciate it, buddy.
The great Rick Stroud at NFL Stroud on Twitter. You want to know what's going on in Tampa? He's also got a podcast, Sports Day Tampa Bay. You want to check out that as well. When we come back, what did Taylor Lewan say earlier this week? He notoriously does not like these. He had an interesting tweet with me that I'll share with you a couple of years ago when the Patriots came to town, and he got asked about joint practices again this week. You will want to hear what he said next. Blaine and Mickey.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
Coming up tomorrow morning.
Thanks to Adam Sparks and John Glennon for joining Tuesday's show.
Fam, if you missed part of the show, download the podcast anywhere you get your audio.
We have a heavyweight show set for Wednesday, including WWE superstar Drew McIntyre.
I will successfully defend the J. Martin Ramon Championship belt.
Yeah, good luck with that, Mon. We'll also be joined by the clean-shaven Rhett Bryan of Titans Radio.
And my VFL brother, Inky Johnson, will provide some midweek motivation.
J. Martin Ramon, tomorrow morning from 6 to 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Just the last time the Bucs were here. And somebody said, hey, you guys have something in common. He played baseball literally at Arkansas State with my cousin Jim and told me all these stories, and we had been to all the
About
same
your
places.
cousin Jim?
Yes, which were boring because Jim's boring. I love him to death.
What do you mean? Well, considering the sport.
Yes, nice and quiet.
Try to have a lot of fun. You make up all these games so you can enjoy yourself because it gets a little boring.
Shooting sunflower seeds, and they anyway. Stroud's an awesome dude. He's covered the Buccaneers forever. So
He's
neat
doing
guy.
it down there, man. He acted as though Tom Brady's the good luck charm, man, for all the major league sports down there in Florida.
That should
Tampa
scare
Bay.
people to death. Him talking about Tom Brady, like he said he feels better than he does in 14 years. He said, I've never seen a guy like that. And Stroud doesn't BS. Yeah. I mean, he's that old school newspaper guy, call it like he sees it. He said his arm strength's not any different at all. Yeah. And you've talked about
I said that
You've
before.
been saying that a lot
People
around
kept
here.
on saying, oh, you know why people kept saying that? He'd have an underthrown ball, and then they just wanted to use the age against him.
Right.
That was it. Well, then you go watch the whole entire game. You go, well, he's still making throws. He got actually hit on that throw.
Yeah.
Or he threw it late. I mean, it was nothing correlated to me. That's why I said I'm going to go watch. That's why, and I'm always the why guy, or, well, I got to believe it when I see it. I can't base it off of what everybody's saying. I got to see it for myself. Sometimes you got to go do your homework to make sure, what's really going on out there. So, yeah, he definitely has enough arm strength, plenty. You know who did show up, though, with the arm strength issues? Drew Brees.
Yeah.
You could see it.
Oh, gosh. It was
and
hard.
everybody was talking about it, but I went and confirmed by watching multiple games and go, yeah, there's something to this one.
And
he could still be playing, to be honest, right now because
mind was so sharp.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he got kind of like Peyton Manning did, even like Phillip Rivers. You watched Phillip Rivers out here last year.
Yeah.
Occasionally, he'd have a little something behind one of the throws. Most of the time, he was just going strict anticipation.
Oh, yeah. He wasn't throwing. He got to get rid of 30 yards. I got to let it go.
But you just be like, where in the world is he? Oh, okay. He was throwing so early on just to get the ball down there. And it's pretty remarkable how accurate and how good Phillip Rivers still was without a lot of gas in the arm tank. Taylor Lewan and the Titans hope to have some gas in the tank because they're about to practice a couple of days. We were talking about the Bucs being
against
in town.
Tampa Bay.
Against the Bucs, the world champs. And they came here and practiced, 3 years ago? And Taylor Lewan got asked by Buck Rising basically about, what do you enjoy about these joint practices? This was his response, and he hearkened back to those days against the Bucs.
Looking forward to? I guess the beach is down there. Like, what that as a joint practice, man. It's an absolute bloodbath down there.
They were obviously here a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
You had some reps against JPP. Obviously
Yeah,
documented.
JPP, the first day of practice a couple of years ago, put an absolutely blistering move on me in 101s. I think they posted it right after. I went one way, he went that way, and then I was caught in a damn blender for a second. But no, those guys, I mean, they're Super Bowl champions for a reason. They're an extremely talented team everywhere at every position. It's gonna be a good time to go down there and gauge where we're all at and what we need to work on and rely on the things that these coaches have taught us and what we pride ourselves in.
Yeah, he called it a bloodbath that day at practice. They had the Patriots in town, a couple of years ago, and Tom Brady, and this was 2 years ago. And that had gotten tweeted out before the season that they would practice together, and I just tweeted something like, announcement today, the Titans and Patriots will scrimmage, going to be great, or whatever I said. And Taylor Lewan responded to my tweet and said, then you do it, Mickey.
Oh, you're talking about 2 years ago?
Yes. And so a couple days later in a news conference, he was like, yeah, somebody tweeted me. It was you. It was Mickey who did it. And I told him, you take on these guys for 2 days. This is tough work. He always has a good time, but it is dang hard work when two teams do these joint practices. But his reactions to it are always hilarious.
Hey, man, Taylor Lewan, man, whenever, you're going against another team in practicing and scrimmages and everything else, is a filling out period because you're not sure, especially if you don't play that team very often, being an AFC, NFC team, you're trying to fill out what his strengths and weaknesses are. You watched a little bit of tape on him. You saying, okay, I can do this, this, and this. Then you realize some things, that, hey, man, this guy's really good. Or he's like, I can get away with certain things. I think that's what he's talking about. So, hey, they have a lot of elite players, but they're up in age, so I don't know how much or how hard they'll be practicing during that 2 days of scrimmaging Wednesday and Thursday. But they can always bring their best for one play, and they can make you look bad. And you never want to look bad on tape. And I don't even care if it's practice against another team.
All right, Calvin is on the line. Calvin, we got to get to 3HL, but you got like 20, 30 seconds. What you got, man?
I just wanted to give a shout-out to Andy Adams and the Titans organization. That was a great practice at Nissan Stadium, man. The things they did for the kids as far as throwing little footballs. I saw Roger Sample go right up to a kid and give him a football. That was beautiful. I about lost my mind when I seen you, Mickey, man. I gave you a big shout-out. You're probably like, what the hell's wrong with this long-haired man? But, hey, it was beautiful, man. I just can't wait for a season. We're going to get that Super Bowl. We get it. Tighten up, baby.
Ooh,
Calvin,
I like it.
Calvin just coming hard, making it count. No doubt. All right, well, we got to leave on that. We're all fired up now.
Oh, yeah. I'm jacked, man. Dang, they're not here. They left. They're on the plane. I'm jacked up about Titans. I got no Titans.
They're on the plane. We'll see. We'll hear all about it tomorrow.
They might have landed already.
Rex said they maybe have. 3HL's about to land next right here on the Zone. 3HL next.
And as always, happy Tuesday. Stay safe out there because you know what? Everyone needs peace in their life.
Regular season and the playoffs. We got you covered.
Oh, wow.
The Titan Station.